Hello, my name is Julia Higgins, and I'm a student at Liberty University. I'd like to share some information with you today about the effect that the Hispanic immigration has had over the years on the American schools. Let's look at some statistics. Between the 1950 and 1960s decade, the Hispanic population grew from 3 million to just over 9 million. That's tripling in 10 years. The United States Census Bureau now reports that there are over 60.5 million Hispanics living in the United States. Hispanics make up approximately 8.4% of the total population. Between 1998 and 2008, the population in K-12 schools increased by just over 7%, but the Hispanic student population in that same time period increased by 51%. Hispanic children now make up 40% of all students in the United States. It is predicted that the Hispanic population will double by the year 2060. There have been some important pieces of legislation that have passed the United States Congress over the years concerning our education of these Hispanic immigrant students. First, there was the Civil Rights Act that was passed in 1968, and then in 1965, and then there was the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1968 that sought to remedy civil rights violations and encourage cultural awareness of the Hispanic population. Title VII through ESEA benefited many inner-city students, but did not target limited English proficient students. Bilingual Education Act of 1968 was the first federal recognition of special needs of our LEP students, but it was all the way until 1991 when No Child Left Behind required schools to finally give more focus to ELLs, which was an acronym for English Language Learners. There have been some special accommodations made throughout the years in the American schools to try to help the Hispanic population, and especially those ELL students. There have been segregated classes and even segregated schools for ELL students. And when you think about it, those classes in schools really violated the Civil Rights Act. There have been English immersion classes and even entire schools where Hispanic students were not allowed to speak Spanish at school and were only taught in English, no matter how little English they had acquired. There were also bilingual classes of several types where students would be taught in both English and Spanish. The teaching philosophy that I identify with most in regards to this population is the naturalist viewpoint. The children are born with innate potential for learning and will develop naturally within a nurturing community. Ethically, can we as educators in the United States deny children the right to develop naturally in nurturing communities? Are we providing nurturing communities in our schools. The Humanist Manifesto, too, states that life has meaning because we create and develop our futures. These children with limited English acquisition are struggling to create and develop their futures. As Christian educators, don't we have a moral obligation to educate every child and to educate every child in the best way for them to learn?